It is maybe the biggest week of the year until, of course, week 16 and then 17. And then you get my point. Welcome to another edition, friends, of Thinking Out Loud from the home office here somewhere in Southern California. My name is Andrew Siciliano. I want to apologize in advance, not for the brevity of this coming pod. I mean, they're like 5-6 good games this week, but for any noise you may hear. It's a Friday. I want to make a big Friday meal because that's what I often do. And remember the Dana Carvey chopping broccoli? You might hear the sound of chopping vegetables for a Friday meal upstairs because this home office is directly under the kitchen counter. Funny how that works. So we will have sound effects from the kitchen. De la cocina, hoy en el show de Thinking Out Loud. You also have the sound effects of Sam laughing in the background. You might have heard that. Sam Betesh, as always, good to see you, sir.
A chopping broccoli, a chopping broccoli. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many.
Yeah, please
we'll get that one, but yeah. We can go there.
Please.
All right. Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to send people to YouTube or Google, and if they don't remember, maybe they're too young. Just look up Dana Carvey, and it's on the YouTubes.
It is. It inspired me nonetheless. So there you go.
Check it out. You reminded me before we came on. Quick thought on last night. Last night was the Rams finally turning the tables and saying, what was that line from Captain Phillips? Now I am the captain, something like that.
Captain now.
Yeah. So the Rams have beaten the Niners 3 consecutive, which, big deal. Divisional opponent. Okay. So you sweep them. You get them once last year until you remember that the Niners had owned the Rams in this rivalry. They had been the more physical and more physically dominant team. Now, granted, the Rams won the NFC Championship game, and that was the most significant game in the Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan era. And they went to the Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl, even though the Niners had beaten them week 18 that year, a couple of weeks before. But this had been somewhat one-sided, and a lot of the games looked the same. Rams turned into the bully, and they punched back last night, and they have now won 3 in a row over the 49ers for the first time since Kurt Warner and the greatest show on turf. And Isaac and Torrey and Marshall and Orlando, that team won 6 in a row from 99 to 01. This team has now won 3 in a row, and everyone says, the Rams got to win out. No, they don't. Next week against the Jets honestly doesn't even matter. They beat the Cardinals and the Seahawks to end the season. They're in. That's how it works. Pretty much, they win these 3 out of 4 division games down the stretch, and they are in. And for all intents and purposes, the Niners are done. There's the whole thing with Devondre Campbell. As we set to record this Friday, Kyle Shanahan on the podium right now saying Devondre Campbell is not going to play again for the 49ers. They don't know the mechanics of it, but they are going to bid him a fond adieu and wish him well after he refused to go on the field last night, after Dre Greenlaw couldn't finish and D. Winters was banged up and Devondre Campbell went to the locker room. It is the second time we have seen that this year from a player. Deontay Johnson, currently still suspended by the Ravens, he did that a couple of weeks ago as well. Granted, it was a 1-game suspension. They just haven't said yet that he's going to play. It reminds you of the Vontae Davis thing some years ago, where Vontae Davis, brother of Vernon, older brother, decided, or younger brother, I can't remember. He's just done. Retired at halftime and went home. Telling a family friend last night about that. Just, what do you mean he went home? He got to the locker room at the half and said, hey guys, best of luck the rest of the way. I'm retired. So that might be it for Devondre Campbell. Either way, Sam, let's throw up the 5 games that mean something to us, because this is one of the weirder schedules I think either of us have seen in a long time. It's unbalanced this week. When I used to do Red Zone Channel, people used to text and scream and tweet and yell and get angry. How dare you only give me 3 games at 4 p.m. Eastern? Well, not only are there more than 3 games at 4 p.m. Eastern, all the good games are at 4 p.m. Eastern this week. It is odd. There is 1 game of significance in the early window. It's not on our screen here. It's the Dolphins. It's the Texans. Miami is still in this, but Miami is 2 games back behind Houston, really, and they're desperate. They cut Odell Beckham this morning. He's been a non-factor this year. I think his career is also over. But that's the only game of major significance in the early window. Chiefs and Browns is significant for me. I will be there. It's going to be cold and raining and ugly. And Myles Garrett's got to get to 100 career sacks, and Patrick Mahomes has protection issues. But that is not the marquee matchup of the week. These marquee matchups now on the screen are all pretty juicy and all with major significance. Let's go. Sam, you want to start top left corner? Let's do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
I like that.
So we got the Bucs and the Chargers here. Again, this is a 4 p.m. Eastern time game. Bucs are 7-6. Chargers are 8-5. This is the 4 seed of the NFC, the 6 seed of the AFC. Looks like Justin Herbert's going to be able to go. He's got the bad ankle. He should be fine. Ladd McConkey was inactive last week. He's a question mark for the Buccaneers. Remember, they may not have Bucky Irving. That's kind of sort of up in the air as well. They have Sean Tucker. They've got other backs, Rashad White. But injuries lingering over this entire thing. Look, the Bucs have won 3 in a row, and they lead the NFC South, even though they were swept by the Falcons. Somebody has to win this division. And really, we've said this the last 3 years, even going back to Tom Brady's final year when they backed into the playoffs. And they were a deep ball in the penultimate game of the year in Carolina away from really not making it in Tom Brady's final year. So for the 3rd straight year, somebody has to win this division. You say, well, the Buccaneers are getting hot. Well, they are, but they've beaten the Giants, the Panthers, and the Raiders in that string. The flip side of that is the Chargers have lost 2 out of 3, and they've lost to good teams, like playoff teams, like the Ravens, like the Chiefs, and they have both been really close games. Buccaneers are against those bad teams, racking up the yardage. 400 yards in their last 3 games. They're averaging 5 yards a carry, by the way, on the ground, not just in 3 games, but overall. I bet if you stop your average NFL fan on the street and ask them, who are the best rushing teams in the NFL? They'll get the Ravens, they'll get the Eagles. But then the next 2 are the Cardinals and the Bucs. I would not have guessed that. They're going to have to run this week, certainly, because the Chargers have the best red zone defense in the NFL. They don't let you in the red zone, first of all, but when they do, you do not score. Herbert has not been picked in forever. Baker has not had a lot of success at SoFi as a visitor. He had that game where he came into the Browns early in 21. They got, I'll say it, I didn't work for them then. I worked for the network, and I said it on air at the time. They got screwed by the refs in that game badly. Put up huge offensive numbers, and they lost. Baker obviously did have that amazing primetime win as the Rams quarterback over the Raiders. That comeback in the final 2 minutes, there for that as well. Baker has some demons to exorcise as a visitor in this building, but I think the Chargers at home, Sam, are the better team, even though they are just bereft of offensive weapons.
I'm going to stick with this. I just continue to do this, chasing to be right about something.
The Chargers.
I have this thing about the Chargers, right? You say something, you put something out there. Chargers are going to be a playoff team. It still looks very much like they are. This won't rob them of that, but I'm just wanting the Chargers to be that team. I've also told you I've been incredibly impressed with what Baker Mayfield's done. He's sort of the quarterback outside of the MVP race that seems to be doing the most this season, right? If we're going tiers of quarterbacks, I like Baker leading that next tier. So impressed with what he's done. But Chargers, with what happened, and it's happened to so many teams this season against Kansas City, but the Chargers obviously have more of a chip about Kansas City than anyone else. And to come that close and have the doink of a field goal go in the way that it did, that burns. And this feels like, you know what? We are getting right here. And again, of all the teams the Chargers beat, as you were saying, they hadn't really beaten a good team this season. We said the Falcons might have been a good team at the time, and then since then, that hasn't gone right. Well, let's go with another NFC South opponent. Let's say they're going to get right. This will be that good team now that the Chargers beat again in the Bucs. That's it. I'm rooting, and I'm going with the Chargers on this one all the way.
I know you're rooting. You're a Charger fan.
I just am. I don't know. I don't know when it happened. It's something about Harbaugh. I just love the fact that the culture truly changed.
You just want your You just want your picks to turn out right, which is okay.
It's all right.
That's what it is.
It's
to quote Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, "Show me your lightning bolt."
Yeah, I may have to.
Please don't. Actually, let's go Green Bay, Seattle up next, because the old if the season ended today, we did that last time.
Yeah, we're not afraid of that.
If the season ended today, this is actually the playoff game. Like, this is it. This is. When they come on to say, welcome, what we have today is a playoff preview. It really is, because this is the playoff game wildcard weekend. The Packers are the 6, the Seahawks are the 3. 6 plays 3 wildcard weekend. This is it, a month early. Green Bay's 9-4, Seattle is 8-5. Now, Green Bay cannot clinch. The Packers did have a clinching scenario this week. However, and this is true, it died when the Rams and Niners didn't tie.
Yeah, that was a fun one. I love the tie. When it's not, It wasn't an option, by the way, right? Usually it's loss or tie. This one had to be a tie, right?
Yeah, it had to be a tie. It was the only game Thursday night in the NFL the entire season that did not have a touchdown scored. And if Josh Carty hadn't kicked that late field goal, it would have been the lowest scoring game of the NFL all year.
Yuck.
But it had to tie for the Packers to be able to clinch this week. So big deal. They can't do it this week. This is a weird series. The home team has always won. Not that that's odd, but they've won the last 8 in the regular season. The Packers have this crazy stretch of primetime games. This is their 3rd out of 4. They're not good in primetime on the road the last few years under Matt LaFleur. They've lost 6 of 7 in primetime on the road. I don't know that means anything. I mean, this is such a young team that half this team wasn't even on the roster in 2022, the way that they have turned over that roster. But regardless, this comes down to the Seattle defense is playing really well right now. Ernest Jones has really helped that defense. He's not the only reason this defense is playing well. Devin Witherspoon is playing out of his mind, and they're getting after the passer. If you look at the NGS stats, the Seahawks have 5 players with more than 30 pressures, which is absurd. It's the most of any team in the NFL. Now, their sack numbers aren't, number 1 or 2, but they're getting pressure, which is what matters here. Green Bay had this really odd offensive game last week. They only completed 12 passes, and they rushed for 99 yards. Yet they scored 31 points, which they hadn't had that kind of odd statistical combination since the 60s. But Josh Jacobs is on a touchdown heater. He had 3 last week. He had 3 a couple of weeks ago. Josh Jacobs has 7 touchdowns on the ground in his last 3 games. I don't have any doubt here that the Packers are the better team. Let's just fast forward to that. They are the better team. But if Zach Charbonnet can go and they can run the ball, Zach Charbonnet's got something that, and I like Kenneth Walker. He was out last week with a calf. I don't think he's going to go this week. They've got something going here. And they know the Rams won, and the Rams are right on their heels. They're 1 back in the loss column. They have to play them at SoFi coming up. So they know what they're playing for here. My gut tells me, Sam, this is a Packer victory. They are the better team. I have no doubt. But I'll say it, and I'll say it again, and I've said it repeatedly. This is the most difficult road venue outdoors to play in the NFL. Let's look up the weather right now. Can we do that? Weather,
yeah, absolutely.
Seattle. This is live Googling.
That's all right. We could do that. I was going to say, in the meantime, I so wanted to be on the other side of this game. I so wanted to be the one saying Seattle here because the Packers do seem like the better team. But exactly what you pointed to, Charbonnet. We've been waiting. Not that we've been waiting 2 seasons, but Charbonnet's been that sort of next guy in Seattle, and we're so used to Seattle having a strong back consistently year after year, and Charbonnet was going to be taking over. That was his game. That was the big break. And he's had time in the spotlight before with Walker out, but that was the game against Arizona in the division taking over that needed to happen. This Seattle team, you're right, has something. And remember this, really the Packers have struggled. The secondary, in regards to passing defense against Miami, and that was Thanksgiving game against Miami, even though it was an ugly score, but Miami was passing all over them, and Detroit got right every time Goff needed a pass. He got it against Green Bay. And so something is there. This could be a game where, yes, we said Charbonnet, but also Geno, DK, and what he's getting out of Smith and Jigba. That is clearly JSN has been special this season for them. And I expect to see more of that against the Packers. And the Packers have a little bit of, not that there would be a look ahead game, but we know what they put into that Detroit game.
Yeah.
And that was quite just a heartbreaking loss. Of course, a couple extra days to prepare, but there you go. And how's the weather, Andrew?
The weather is in the 40s and it should be not raining, which is a good thing. But I wouldn't bank on that because every day over 5, it shows rain in the forecast. Sunday is the only day in which there is no rain in the forecast currently for Seattle, which means, of course, it is going to rain, which favors the team. I mean, they say that could run the ball better. I'm going to go with Green Bay.
Oh, wait, one other note, by the way. I don't know if they decided this yet. You might know. Is this going to be the neon green versus the all-white jerseys? This not that it's color rush.
All-white. I do believe the Seahawks are going highlighter jerseys here.
I believe DK said he loves those jerseys and the offensive linemen hate them. But I'm a huge fan of the highlighters.
Seahawks Twitter.
And I think Green Bay was still deciding if they were going with the white pants and the white jerseys as well.
They haven't. They're lying. They've decided. They just don't want to tell you.
Okay,
that's how that works. The Seahawks are going. Yeah, they're going like a highlight. Like somebody forgot to take a highlighter out of their pocket and washed it.
Of all the things that happen in Color Rush, I thought Seattle's made the most sense. I think that sort of
they're just personality. They're harsh. They're harsh on the eyeballs. Okay, next up.
Yeah,
you want to do Pittsburgh? Let's do the Battle of Pennsylvania. So, you know what the Steelers have never done?
This is interesting. I think I know. I'm not going to rob this of you. I think you've got
you can do it. I don't care.
I know that since 1965 they haven't beaten the Eagles. They haven't won in Philadelphia.
Yeah, in the Super Bowl era. They've never gone to Philadelphia and won. We don't need to go down the Steagles path.
No,
back
thank you
in
for
the
that.
war, they had to merge back when the Steelers were the laughingstock of American sports. The two teams came together, and hey, great war effort. But this is a great game. It's one of 2 Super Bowl previews, if you will, on the card this week. The Steelers 10-3, the Eagles 11-2, the 3 seed in the AFC, the 2 seed in the NFC. The Eagles do have a clinching scenario. They can win the NFC East if they win this game, and the Commanders lose earlier in the day to New Orleans. So they will know when they take the field because this is a late window game here. By the way, Marshawn Lattimore making his Commanders debut finally in that game against his former team. And the Steelers have a clinching scenario as well. They are in with a win, or Indianapolis and Miami both losing, and they both have something to play for. So if they both lose, then the Steelers are in regardless, but they could just get in with a win. So look, right now, and I've seen both of these teams in person right now. They're both playing well. The Eagles have won 9 straight since their bye. They have the whole A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts drama this week. I don't know that will factor here, other than you obviously try to, grease the squeaky wheel early. So you try to get him the ball early, and the Steelers are going to hit you. Joey Porter is going to be full contact. He's a hugger. Joey Porter Jr., he's a lover. He's a hugger. And, maybe get some tip balls and maybe get a pick early, and maybe you could steal a touchdown early. Steelers start slowly. Eagles start slowly offensively, obviously. They both want to run the football. No one runs the ball really more than these two teams. They combine for 70 rushes a game. 70 rushes a game. They both have great defenses. They both run the football. Both of their quarterbacks are playing well. Both of their quarterbacks can make plays with their legs. Certainly one more than the other. Russ doesn't move around that much at all anymore, but he's able to make some plays on the run before he crosses the line of scrimmage. We saw that last week. I think it comes down to the turnovers. Eagles haven't committed a turnover in a month, basically, and the Steelers have. If the Eagles do that and do that at home and can run the football, then I think this is the Eagles' game. They have the number one total defense in the NFL, and they got the number one back in the NFL. Saquon Barkley, if you took his numbers for just the second half, and Sam, this is what blew me away looking this one up last night. He has 1,057 yards rushing in just the second half. If you just took that number, he'd be the number 2 rusher in the NFL behind Derrick Henry.
That's gross. It's the Wayne Gretzky number, right? You take away all of Wayne Gretzky's goals, he still leads the entire NHL in scoring. So that's an impressive one. But it also goes to speak to the idea that the Eagles in the first quarter are abysmal. 17 points total in the first quarter. The
Steelers
worst.
Bad too.
Yes, but the Eagles, the worst team in the first quarter offensively in football. Now, here's the interesting one that probably saves them. They are the best team in the final 2 minutes of the first half. So whatever they don't do in the first quarter, they are making up for late in the second quarter and into the second half. This is interesting. 4th-ranked defense rushing-wise are the Steelers against that number 1 rushing offense of the Eagles. That could play a factor here. I also think it'd be interesting. Yes, you say forcing the ball perhaps to A.J. Brown, getting right, going to those. Couple of things to point out in regards to the Eagles struggling, quote-unquote, passing offense. Remember 2 of those games without Devontae Smith. Last week, also without Dallas Goedert. And I would say this much, whatever they're doing on offense is working. I mean, to say your passing offense is struggling, but you've got the best running back and the best rushing offense in football so far this season, feels to me like keep it up. And if you're not turning the ball over, that's because, yes, they are passing the ball less, doing a little less with Jalen Hurts. It's working. It's working. Keep doing it. The only thing I'll say to one of the points you made, you talked about the turnovers and the fact that the Eagles haven't committed one. Steelers are plus 17 in the turnover differential. Yeah. So that, I'm just going to say quickly, Steelers, I think perhaps this rears its head in this game. I feel like the Steelers are going to get that turnover. Steelers are going to find a way to win this game. Eagles know that they can clinch the division, as you said. This game is an AFC matchup that won't really affect that part of it. Catching the 1 seed, yes, it could still happen for the Eagles, but regardless, Steelers are in a dogfight divisionally with the Ravens, and that just, I'm just feeling it. And by the way, Russ and Pete Carroll, I know different team, obviously, and different scenario, not the same head coach. He never lost to the Eagles. Russ with Pete Carroll never lost to the Eagles. Saying it for what it is.
He's also never lost to the Steelers.
Okay, interesting.
Fun fact.
Yeah, there you go.
He's never lost to a team from Pennsylvania.
Okay, so there you go. It's fun.
Although he might have lost to Penn State at Wisconsin, I have no idea. Or Pitt at NC State, I have no idea. We could dig into that. Quick thing on Saquon, he is going to bust one of the second half. Looking at the Steelers last week, and no one runs. You look at the Eagles' numbers out of shotgun, running the ball out of shotgun. They've been great. They want to run wide zone out of shotgun. There were backside cut lanes open all night long against the Steelers last week. Nick Chubb got one of the second half. Jerome Ford hit one. Run that wide zone, cut it back, and it was wide open. Saquon is going to hit one. We got 2 more games left, and time is of the essence here. Let's quickly go. Let's go out of order here. Sam, let's save the other Super Bowl preview for last. We'll go Colts and Broncos here. I've seen the Broncos in person, saw them 2 weeks ago. Bo Nix should be your offensive rookie of the year, and even more than Jaden Daniels.
And that's surprising. That is surprising. You're probably right, but that's very surprising.
He is that good, and the defense is that good as well. I will just boil this one down into a 60-second capsule. Denver is first in the NFL in sacks. They have a top 10 rush defense. I think it might even be top 5. They got gashed by the Browns, over 500 yards. Jameis threw for 497. But they came through with the 2 big pick sixes. This defense is great. It is. Now, Riley Moss out, that's a big deal. But the Colts don't threaten you through the air. They've got to beat you on the ground. More design runs for Anthony Richardson the last few weeks. They got to beat you on the ground. That's Denver's strength. You're playing into Denver's strength. Broncos are coming off a Monday nighter and a bye. They are well rested. I'm not going to say they blow them out, but I don't know that this game is close, to be honest with you. I think Denver is that much better than Indianapolis. What's the stat I have here? Denver, where is it? 3 straight, obviously. 7-0 against teams under 500. What's my margin of victory here? I had a crazy margin of victory.
Quick one while you look for
here
margin of victory. I just wanted to say,
I'm going to chase. Here it is.
Okay.
7 of their 8 wins have been by multiple scores. That's tied with the Bills for the most in football. And I think this is one of those as well.
And it's surprising because really the Broncos' turning point was the 10-9 victory over the Jets. And we thought the Jets were good, right? And so it felt like, oh, this is a team that's grinding it out, but not exactly the case. And that Monday night shootout with the Browns that you were obviously there for was one where you said, oh, wow, this team is capable of so much more. They had the long touchdown from his own end zone with Bo Nix. And to say offensive rookie of the year the way that you did so quickly that now has gone to Nix when it felt like Jaden Daniels was a winning ticket all the way. Totally. But if you look at the last month, it has switched. I'm just going to chase a prediction here and say Colts. I thought the Colts would be a playoff team. They have to win. They basically have to win this game to be in that conversation. Anthony Richardson, if you look, actually 2 of the last 3 games, he's been much better. Don't look at the completion percentage. Please don't. It's ugly. 47%. That is awful. That is awful. If they're going to do anything in the air, it's Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce, I believe, leads the league with receptions over 20 yards. I believe he's averaging in regards to just average per catch. I think he leads the league in regards to that. So it's going to take sort of a long one to Alec Pierce to make this happen. Anthony Richardson, you're right. Running into that defense, that's not the key here. He's going to have to do a few things with his arm. If you look, there's a few passes Anthony Richardson has just missed. Deep passes that he has just missed on. And if you remember that Monday nighter with Jameis, he hit on the deep pass. That certainly helped with what Jerry Jeudy did. Could that happen for Anthony Richardson here? I'll just say it to be fun. Colts, it's kind of a cooler, more interesting AFC playoff race if the Colts win this game. I'd love to see it. This would be Anthony Richardson's biggest win of his career.
It would
simply
be.
would be.
It would be massive.
It just would be.
And keep the Colts in it and keep them relevant. I just don't see it happening. I just don't. I think one team is that much better than the other. But that's just me. And then finally, the Super Bowl preview. Another one. There's 2 of them this week. I mean, the 4 o'clock Eastern time games. The idea that Nance and Romo are going to be going head to head against Burkhardt and Brady and EA and Tom Rinaldi. Amazing. But Buffalo here is 10-3. Detroit is 12-1. Fun fact, I'm going to be flying back from Cleveland through Detroit, having to go through that airport during this game. So I'll claim that I was there. The Bills are the 2 seed. In the AFC, the Lions are the 1 seed. In the NFC, Lions have won 11 consecutive. That is a franchise record. Bills lead the NFL in turnover differential. Lions lead the league in point differential. Like, there are a million stats. We know how good these 2 teams are. I am going to say and pick this game, and I'm going to pick the Lions for one reason only. They have shown an ability to overcome weather-related practice obstacles in the past, but I think this is a different task here. I do. The Lions are well-rested coming off that bye. Coming off Thursday. The Bills, meantime, played a late Sunday afternoon game in LA, a game with like 900 yards of offense where Josh Allen scored 6 touchdowns. They're exhausted back in Buffalo. Then they had the bad storm this week where today, Friday, as we tape this, is really the only day they're going to have a real practice this entire week. With the storm, they had to meet virtually earlier in the week because of the bad weather and the roads. They weren't in the building. I think that does factor here, and I'm going to lean on that in picking the Lions, who are getting a little bit healthier on defense, not even close to all the way back. The numbers are what the numbers are. Truly. I think it is a shootout. I think it is the absolute opposite of what we saw Thursday night in Santa Clara, and I'm going to go with the home team. I'm going to go with the Lions, but honestly, in our final minute here, nothing would surprise me.
Yeah, I'll say Bills. I just don't think the Bills lose 2 in a row. And it's almost tough to say that was a loss. I mean, it was obviously a loss to the Rams, but considering what Josh Allen did with the 6 touchdowns, only player ever with 3 rushing and 3 passing, that was so remarkable. And just the total yardage in that game, it was also a great one for Stafford as well. It's funny that same offense was on the field on Thursday night when you think about what happened in the Buffalo game. But I'm going to say Bills again. This game also, in regards to seeding, matters so much less to the Lions. Lions losing this game, even if both teams were to win out after this, if the Lions lost this game and the Eagles won out, it's an AFC loss, doesn't affect the Lions. They would still have the 1 seed. Not to say it doesn't matter. Not the lines won't go for it again. 12 in a row would be pretty outstanding. This is the MVP Bowl. This is it. We said it. We thought maybe the Eagles Ravens was going to be that, but when it really boils down to it, Josh Allen and Jared Goff, and I just want to keep reminding people, Jared Goff could win MVP. Jared Goff could win MVP. Jared Goff could win MVP. It really could happen in this game if he outperforms, especially coming off what Josh's last game was. This could be that reminder. And again, it's a little more subtle than with Josh Allen, Jared Goff's game. Right? He's not bowling into the end zone. He may not be passing for as many yards. It's about percentage when it comes to Goff, right? That's really what the stat that's going to set it apart is 70%. I mean, he's just completing 70% of his passes every single game, including 2 where he was perfect this season.
Yep.
This could be that. I still say the Bills find a way. It's tough. It's tough to think of this Bills team losing 2 in a row. Consider the opponents, of course, but that's what it feels like. I'll go there. I'll lean Bills since you're leaning Lions. I just could see them eking that out.
Okay. We all agree. The game of the week, of the year, of the century. It'll be a big one. 5 games of significant consequences in the late 4 p.m. Eastern time window. It is the week of the year for now. Enjoy it, everybody. For Sam Betesh, my name is Andrew Siciliano. So long.